Hi everyone and welcome to tonight's episode of Culture of Paint. On tonight's show we're going to take a look at what's caught our eye over the last couple of weeks in the miniatures painting world. For our main topic, I've asked the guys to come up with some of their favourite dioramas and we'll just have a chat about what we enjoy about them. And then we'll close out the show, as usual, taking a look at what a few of our hashtag paint cultists have been up to. Our Culture of Paint is aimed at a mature audience and we might discuss adult themes and use explicit language. Now let's talk about paint. And we are back. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Henry, and joining me, as usual, are Andy, Matt, and Rich. How are we, chaps?
Good day.
All good, mate.
Good day. That's nice.
Not too bad.
The Aussies when they jump in. I like it. We're doing this show as a pre-record tonight, guys. We've just got a couple of shows we're pre-recording just so we can try and stick to that schedule for you all with a show every other week. We'll try wherever we can to make sure we film live and get all the audience and the chat in and all the rest of it, but we should have a few of the patrons joining us on and off tonight for tonight's show anyway. But with that in mind, let's crack on. Matt, get them slides up. What's been going on? And Andy, we haven't had you on for a couple of weeks, so there's been tons of stuff going on. What's been catching people's eye? What's been happening? Not a lot, right? Just a billion GW releases
every day.
Yeah, man.
Madness.
Cool. So first up.
Okay.
This is neat,
That's rad.
right? I saw this and was like, this is sick. So I don't know if many people that are listening or watching are aware, but it's something the Scandinavian lads do a lot of, where they create an event. Basically, you go along for like 2 days, lock yourself in like a bunker for 2 days with a bunch of little hobbyists, and you have to produce something over that time frame. And this Thomas's, it's the result of one of those style events, which I think are great, and I think are a really fun way to kind of riff with other hobbyists and force yourself to do something. So I really like the idea of it, and it just caught my eye because I thought it was mega. It's a really cool diorama that he's just built from some random bits and parts of a knight and a walker, and I mean it ticks all my boxes. It's a walker, it's battle damaged, and it's kind of a bit funky sci-fi. So I saw it and was
this
like,
isn't a million miles away from literally you could have done it, right?
Yeah, right. That's why I thought that looks like something I literally could have produced. So that's why it tickled my pickle, and I thought that's dope because it's still sort of it's still 40k in a way, but it's just it looks like it's like on the periphery of what we know of the 40k universe. So it could be like something brand new or something that's out on the fringes of it. And I thought it was great, and walkers are just the best. And now I want to paint a little knight army that's just those knights, short ones.
Also, the base is amazing.
Like one massive one with like 10 of them.
We should
It's cool.
We should get some of the Swedes on, man. We should get them on to chat about it. I remember Puddy did something last year or the year before with one of the cult minis. Yeah. He made like Helpy into a big monster and had little monkeys and things.
Do a special next time.
But could be cool, man. Let's get maybe get a couple of them on to talk about it and stuff. Oh, has Rich frozen on anyone else's screen, or is it just mine?
He did.
He did for a bit.
That's all right. That's a fantastic pick, Rich.
Thanks, mate.
I'm liking it.
It's very cool.
Yeah, you should definitely do something like that.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought the base was really good as well. The base is literally it's the top of some Tau drones attached to just like tubes and then painted well. Oh. That's literally all the canisters are.
Perfect.
Epic.
Yeah.
So next up.
Yeah, that's spot on, man. There's nothing not to like about that.
Yeah.
What we got that? So I'm obviously a little bit obsessed with tiny planes at the minute and tiny titans, but I'm going blind painting trim. And I was building a couple of little Space Marine Aeronautica planes the other night, and then this came up on my Instagram feed. Are there any other photos of this one, Matt?
There's this one as well.
I just saw this cool. And I was like, what a fucking cool idea. So we've got those backdrop plinths that we obviously have made by Tarot for the Kickstarter. I'm 100% doing a little plane on a backdrop plinth for me over the sort of winter as just a little fun project. And I thought it's kind of fun with the diorama thing as well. That's I guess when does a model go from being just a model on a display base to a diorama to, I don't know, maybe we'll chat about that sort of thing in a bit. But these Aeronautica planes, I mean, I got an absolute stonk on for them. They're a great size. Put it into perspective, that thing is about as big as it's about the same size as my Leatherman that sat on the desk. All right, so they're a big old thing. So you can have a bit of fun with painting them. But I just love what this guy had done.
How do you think he did the stars?
Watch this spec.
Do you reckon that's
just flick?
I was thinking, is it flick or is that individual dots? Because it doesn't look like bunched to be a flick. You know, sometimes you get like a direction when you flick.
He might.
Yeah, he might have done it from a distance because like some of them are a bit like on the left they're a bit like oblong, so it's like it's a flick.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe just bought really good speckledy card?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I really like on this one how you've got that proper starry bokeh effect in the background.
Yeah.
That's like it's really cool.
Exactly. There's a couple coming up in the paint contest at the end of the show as well, which stood out to me just because I love seeing a bit of photography, like a bit of cool photography work when people present their minis as well. Like not just trying to get a good sort of accurate photo. I love it when people try and the atmosphere of the photo and all that's as big a deal as the paint job. Just really dig it, and I'm totally going to steal it and have a go at. Maybe I'll do it with the Thunderhawk. I think on our backdrop base. Nice. I think it could be good fun. Nice. So that's my pick.
Good pick.
Next up, my one. I've been searching for a bit of a tankspiration, proper realism style, and I saw this today, and love it. I love all that realism, proper like historical modelling.
Do you think that's realism?
I was going to say that's really interesting. I wouldn't have. What were you going to say, Andy?
I was going to say that it's like unrealistic, more fantasy kind of style chipping.
Like so illustrated sort of.
More illustrated, heavy weathering. But the jerry can's amazing.
Yeah, jerry can's really cool. That's what sort of drew me in.
It's all really cool. It's just I wouldn't have said that's your typical military modelling.
Yeah.
It's. I think it's interesting because there are quite a few people out there who they kind of blend the two. Because I agree, like the physical method of doing the 3D style chips is something that you tend to see a lot more in kind of sci-fi wargaming. But then the modulation and the streaking and the weathering is very historical. And there are a few people, I think I follow this person anyway. There are a few people that kind of blend those two different sort of worlds together, where they start doing it in a sci-fi-esque way and then get weathering in a real way. I think it's really cool. It does work very well. I think it's great.
Absolutely. Is it quite a big kit?
Car, I think, isn't it?
As well.
I think it's a 1/35.
Yeah, so it's about 1/35.
Probably something. Yeah, it's pretty.
The little proper plastic light lenses and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah, those lights are so much better than the
bother
terrible
painting
grills you get across the Land Raiders, isn't they?
Yeah.
Oh, mate,
absolute worst, those lights.
I can't, Rich, you're a tank nerd. What's the one that's bottom left as we look at it? Is that the horn? No.
Yeah, I think so, because it's got a cable that leads out from it. It'll either be the horn or it'll be a different flashlight. But yeah, probably the horn. I think it's a German armored car, I think, because it's got the Panzer I turret on top.
So what's got you looking at tanks, Matt?
I just fancy doing one. I keep a lot of the Forge World stuff has come back in stock. They finally got their casting back together.
Well, they haven't, but you can buy stuff.
Yeah, well, you can get something at least. But I mean, I did the Macarius a while ago, and that was probably my favourite model. So I just fancy another tank.
The other Macarius now.
I was going to say you got two more Macarii.
Grey. That's what you want to do.
Yeah. I really like that. What's that sort of the dual basilisk cannon one? The Minotaur. Yeah, that's a very cool one.
We've had one of those gone backwards and forwards between me and Andy for about 2 years now.
Yeah, I'm keeping it this time. I promise. I really want to paint it, but I want to just paint in general.
Mess around the Minotaur.
Yeah, I want to paint that and people not think it's mine. That's the plan with that.
Because the Minotaur's the other chassis, isn't it? It's the Malcador.
That's its own chassis.
No, it's reversed Malcador.
It hasn't. It's got those massive circles on the side. The Malcador doesn't have that.
Yeah, it's got the same track relay as Malcador.
Yeah, but it's got that enormous like
cover thing on it. Yeah,
cool as hell. Yeah,
you'll have to post it under a pseudonym.
Paint job, isn't there? The Renegade Militia one of it.
Yeah, Michael Mateus Pash, something like that.
There's a goodies one with Pete on as well. That's amazing.
Yeah, they do. They give you a good guy and a bad guy kit.
Yeah,
we've got a few of the patrons dropping in now. Mike, Liam, the McBiscuit. Hello, chaps. Nice to see you. Mike's. We were chatting about Mike on the last episode. He's beavering away on his sculpting.
He's still frothing at Khan, I think.
I think, yeah. I imagine he's only just come round, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So, is that on any of the picks at all, Khan? No.
Not today, no.
Oh, well, it's probably worth mentioning is that they finally sculpted all the Primarchs at Forge World, which is pretty cool.
Not the best till last, but whatever.
Pretty good though. I'd have him top 5.
It's a nice sculpt.
Top 20 for you. Nice.
18.
And we've got one more pick left, haven't we?
We do.
Yours, Andy, I think, will it?
I've gone predictable for this. But it's
Mr.
really,
Tornado.
It's really, really great though, isn't it? It's like, I don't know, nothing's really making me go, ooh, I want to paint, but this did. I don't want to paint this model, but it made me want to paint something nicely.
A boost.
No, well, not even a boost, just like, don't know, just paint something that isn't in 10 minutes for YouTube, basically.
That leather's pretty delicious, isn't it? On the old.
It's all works together really nicely, doesn't it? Like the different materials on the sleeve and the cloth, and it's very, very cool. The face is really good on the close up as well, as usual.
What's the model?
Black Crow, and it's available as a full figure as well. Not my favourite miniature because it's just a dude, but I thought the painting was exceptional. So
very nice, son. Mark's been pumping it out again, hasn't he? He sort of has these, because does a real sort of feast and famine, doesn't he, Mark? I don't know. I guess maybe he works on multiple ones at once or something, does he? I don't know. It
might be released.
I never asked him. Oh, that's true. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it might be when he's allowed to.
It might be months ago.
Things would have been messed about, wouldn't they? This last 18 months.
Nice non-metallics as well, because it's not too in your face. Like there's no NMM on there that's like. I mean, the only really bright bit is that one bit on the sword. The gold's quite tasteful, isn't it, on the centre? So yeah, I like it. I
quite like the sculpt. The armor's cool. It's not your typical barbarian, right? It's got a bit more to it, bit more design to it. It's cool.
Nah, it's nice. I think is it a Raoul? I think I don't remember. I can't remember. Maybe not. But he does some stuff for those guys. So
found a Raoul sculpt though. I found a Seth randomly packed in a box with a load of other stuff. Yeah. So
put it online.
That'd be nice. Yeah. Stick them up on the shop. Right. Good choices. It's been that's a nice set of releases, and I don't think we picked any of the GW new releases. So good on us.
Excellent.
There we go.
Yay.
As much as we are massive fans of GW, it's nice. It's nice to see what else is out there, isn't it?
Well, you see them. Everyone's posting them on all their accounts. Everyone's seen them about 20 times.
That's true, isn't it? Yeah, we had another 90-minute preview the weekend just gone. Lots of stuff for different people. If you enjoy their settings, plenty of things coming. I know I got a bit of a lob on about that new Warcry box.
You gonna buy it?
Cool stuff in there. Yeah, probably not this weekend. No. I've sort of bought my winter project.
Yeah, you said you did your last spending.
Yeah, I did my last shop last weekend. I treated myself to a couple more Forge World bits last weekend. So yeah, maybe in the new year. I've still got the last bloody Warcry box to paint. So, I need to, but that is a game I don't understand why I've not painted every single thing for it and play it all the time, because it's faultless. I wasn't a huge fan of the second edition or second, I don't know what you call it, season, where it was in the dungeon. Well, that wasn't as cool, but the first one and this one with just lovely. But maybe we'll talk. Well, we'll definitely talk about skirmish games in the future, because I know that's really getting rich going at the minute, and we'll see how that. We had a chat on the last show, Andy, saying perhaps it might be fun next year if we all did a little kill team project or something for the podcast when your Eldar lads come out.
Well, me and Rich will do the Eldar Rangers. No doubt.
Yeah, be good, man. Did we have a meme or not?
We do.
Right, come on then. I've no idea what this is.
So, Rich sent this one over.
This was my
I did
choice.
chuckle.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you spent thousands on toys that only you appreciate, and we sell in the garage. Yeah.
That's fine. That's the kind of feedback I need in my life. Not too much. All right. Don't hit me with the reality stick.
Yeah, I thought it was appropriate for those of us who have quite a lot of stuff, shall we say, sitting in our hobby rooms. It's just a bit of a pick me up.
You'll notice I'm in an empty room now.
Yeah, I'm not.
You put it all in the cupboard just behind the door, right?
Now this is everything to get rid of. There's an AC/DC VHS there though. That's pretty cool.
Nice.
You need to have a cleanse.
This is my final desk to fix, and then I'm done.
Intro to Airbrush the other week, and was doing the everybody introduce themselves awkward thing I do at the start, and it very quickly devolved into hi, my name is Bob. I want to learn to airbrush because I have a massive pile of shame. And it'd be like, hi, yeah, I'm Phil. I also have a massive pile of shame. And it just degenerated into people like, oh, yeah, mine fills a cupboard. Oh, yeah, well, I've had to use the spare room now and all that. I'm like, fuck. It's getting bad, isn't it? I think
Plastic cracks
I don't
anonymous.
think lockdown helped either, did it?
It's like a support group, like when you go and you're like, I'm Rich, I'm an alcoholic. It's no, I'm a Rich and I'm a plastic hoarder.
Yeah, pretty much. I've got Sam in the chat saying hello. Enjoyed the class at the weekend. You just had that Faces class, didn't you, Andy? Just gone. How did that go? On our model first class on our DIORAMAS stuff. I think so.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it was really nice. It was really nice to not have a rush a class. We kind of didn't have a. Well, it sounds bad. We just spent a whole day on one face, which was nice to be chill. So that was very, very nice, and just have a lot of two-way communication with the peoples in the real life, which is rare. So just really nice to really ask what people found hard with Faces and try and resolve those things. And I was really surprised, actually, which sounds bad, but everyone did a really good job. But there you go.
Nice.
It was
glowing endorsement.
I'm going to paint the eyes now. Don't worry if they look bad. Everyone did a great job of the eyes. But I did have some good tips for the eyes. So let's just pat myself on the back. Maybe, I don't know.
It's just your teaching, mate. That's all that was.
It's my tried and tested easy eyes method.
Climb them out the door like a parachute jump.
Last.
If your eyes aren't doing that, have you really tried?
It's true. It's true. You can't look at multiple threats at once that way.
Yeah. It's an upgrade.
Right. Let's move on to the main topic. So we thought for this show we'd have a chat about one of our collective favourite things when it comes to miniature painting, which is dioramas. I think we all agree that often the standout pieces best in shows will often be a diorama, or certainly often the most memorable. And I think for me, one of the reasons I love that is because I feel like with dioramas, there's a little bit more scope for it not just being pure technical ability, right? You can bring in a little more of your skill set if you've got that imagination and creativity and all that kind of thing as well. So I think that's why I always enjoy looking at them. Sometimes, if you see 5 of the same model in single miniature, you're going to probably like the one that's painted the best, right? It's kind of inevitable. But with dioramas, there's just so much scope for that kind of thing. So I've no idea what anyone has picked. I just asked these 3 guys to pick some of their favourites, and I'm going to grill them as to why. So let's crack on. What's up first, Matt? Ooh. Now this, I'm going to guess, is Rich.
Yep.
Right. This is a bit full on.
So yeah, there's about 8 photos of this, just because the scope of what's on show is bonkers. So Michael Mandow, who created this, doesn't have an Instagram account, but he has a blog spot which shows him doing the process and painting it all. So it's 1/35th scale. So if anyone has ever painted anything in 1/35, you'll know that this is absolutely massive, because that an E100, which was a prototype German World War II tank, was developed in about 1945, right at the end of the war. They only made 2 or 3. But the kit itself is a mix of 2 different kits. So it's a trumpeter body and a kit from, it's a dragon, I think, or dragoon, however you say it. A what-if scenarios in the historical or scale world, which is kind of what if I disappeared.
You're right. Just keep going, mate. We'll see. If it keeps chopping, we'll move on. Don't worry. But just keep going for now, unless we say.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, there's a big movement in the 1/35th or historical world, which is kind of what ifs. So people are imagining what would happen if the Second World War had continued by a couple of years, and the different things that would create. So this is a what if 1947 scenario if the Second World War had continued. The tank itself is a kit, but the entire rest of the diorama is all scratch built. So everything is built from plastic girders, resin bricks, all that kind of stuff. It took him 8 months to complete, apparently, and he said he spent a few hundred hours on it in general.
Have you painted much at this scale, Rich, or not?
Not much. A couple of bits at 1/35, but not loads. It's something I really enjoy aesthetically, but for me to create something really, really good out of it, the hours, it's hundreds of hours potentially. And you know what I'm like with committing to things, but it's probably one of my favorite genres and favorite hobby related topics. 1/35 armor specifically. I've got loads of the kits as well, because they're incredible. Like the quality of plastic kits in 1/35 these days is insane. So it's definitely something I want to do a bit more in the future.
So just to help people out, like 1/35th, what are we talking about roughly, sort of millimeters, or in relation to a Space Marine, that kind of thing?
So 1/35th is, it's if you had a 1/35. So for instance, that E100 tank there would probably be about the size of a Malcador Forge World tank, if not bigger.
Right.
This is a big diorama then.
Yeah.
It's probably a bit bigger than a Malcador, actually, because 1/35, especially the E100, was massive. So Malcador, or somewhere between Malcador and probably Baneblade size.
Okay, cool. So the dudes are, because I'm trying to get my head around it as well. Are we talking like 54 mil, 75 mil?
Yeah, roughly around 54.
Right. That's a lot of work in it, man. To paint like that is Because Andy, you've obviously done a lot of larger scale sort of individual models. Have you thought about doing a full scale diorama at that scale or not?
Nah. It's like, I don't know. It depends on what the story you want to tell is, isn't it? And I don't know. I've just had nothing to say. Because they'd be like this big. But my at the moment, I want to paint less to a better standard. So for me, like something this big is like, I'd want to spend, he spent 8 months on it and nothing else. And I think with what we do for work, I don't actually have that luxury. So it's not
Aussie Trent does quite a few larger scale ones, doesn't he? Sort of almost collections as opposed to dioramas. I guess they are dioramas, but they're often
all the figures
are often more of a collection, aren't they? Sort of a presentation of them as opposed to necessarily,
I think
a scene.
The standard has got to be there for me though. Like if you do something this big, I want the standard to be as good, and that's why I wouldn't want to do it myself. But this is obviously amazing. Like every centimeter of it is perfect, and I think that's why it's so cool, because it helps. Dioramas help tell a story, and then the realism helps make it feel, like a proper scene, and helps you get, becomes more immersive. So like something, to be honest, a bit sloppy, a bit mediocre doesn't really do it for me.
Right.
Like a quick job, but like something like this is super cool, because you have to have every little detail a high level, I think. So that's what I think anyway.
And what was it about this one, Rich, that particularly stood out? Because you've picked the odd larger scale scene, World War II scenes before, when we've sort of done picks of the week and stuff like that. What was it about this one that really stood out to you? Like what's made this one of your poster on the wall type things?
For me, it was the level of detail and consistency across the whole piece. Like for me, the historical dioramas that you see a lot of tend to have a vehicle as the centerpiece, and that's the focal point, which in this regard it is, because it's the biggest part of that, the main bit of the diorama. But it doesn't overtake it, and it's just an element of a scene. It's not the center of it.
Because there's a ton of stuff going on just up the top, isn't there? Like the bombed-in roof, and
I love that.
And just the guys on the right, the different soldiers that are there, the soldiers on that level, the soldiers on the bottom level, the level of like there's a guy hidden there and right underneath by the pillars. And just I think it's every angle. A lot of the historical things that you see, they're like corners of buildings, and that's the only bit that's it's all from one angle. Like you have to look at it from that angle, and it's incredible the intricate amount of detail that they fit in that angle, like it's a photograph. I love that. For me, this was every single angle that you look at this from, there's an entirely different story being told. It's not just one angle. And I don't know why it is with historical models that people tend to fall in that, will tend to do it that way, where they aim for one specific view. Whereas a lot of times in fantasy dioramas, I think you look to turn the model and you see something new from every angle that you look at. And this was kind of like a mix of those two. And that's why I think for me it was most, because it was really hard for me to decide, because there's this or there's another quite famous one that's set in a train yard, and I really couldn't decide between the two. But I picked this because that other one had like 2 or 3 angles you could look at it from, and then a flat back. Whereas this, if you turned it every way round, you'd be able to see it.
This I don't know whether you guys will be able to answer or not, but presumably lighting becomes a different sort of challenge when you're doing a diorama at this scale, right? Because stuff's casting like legit shadows, isn't it, when it's this big? But it looks, from this angle we're looking at now anyway, it still looks like he's painted a lot of the light and the shadow in, right? And if he has, like, that daylight that's breaking through that open side looks incredible, like, right, compared to the areas in shadow. Like, I don't know, Andy, whether you can pick it out or not, but does it look to you like there's almost painted on shadows? Like if we look at the bottom of the tank on the picture that Matt's just helpfully moved on from.
Nope.
Sorry, bud. But if we look at the tank track as we peer through that gap, and then actually the one Matt had just moved on to, where the guy that stood on the platform, legs akimbo, that looks painted in, right?
Yeah. I mean, what you could do is we could look at the front one, and you can see that the shadow on the tracks is still there in the same sort of orientation.
The leg one's moved, hasn't it?
The leg one has moved, though,
Yeah.
So they are the actual shadows, not painted on yet.
Yeah.
Benefit of the size of the actual models, or the size of this diorama, casting light on it would create its own shadows, so it would help affect how it would look. So the lighting in the photography on this would change it. So if you had it in just really stark light, it wouldn't look anything like it does now, where the size of a 1/35 scale German soldier, it's so big, it's like this big, it actually will cast and create its own shadow depending on the way that you cast the light on it.
Right. It must be an interesting challenge with I mean, I know typically the painting style is different anyway, and you know, I've had a go at painting a few World War II tanks. I don't know anything about them, but I like how they look, and it is fun painting in that style, where you're almost sort of leaving off a lot of the detail, and I just, but there's just a huge amount of skill, isn't there? It's because I think sometimes you see, or I feel like I see people look at military modeling, like this historical modeling, whatever you want to call it, and you see them trying to bring it into sci-fi, usually sci-fi, maybe fantasy, but usually sci-fi stuff. And sometimes I feel a lot of the time, I often feel that it just looks like a technique that's been put on that model, if that makes sense. Whereas looking at this, I'm not really identifying techniques. I'm just looking at the scene. You know, I'm enjoying. If you look closer, you know, that green pillar or whatever it is, I guess it's a slice of a sliding door maybe, or something like that. The green bit on the left as we're looking at it. Actually, when you study that a bit more, you can see the technique and everything that's gone in there. But I think to have such a large piece with obviously so many techniques and products, right? That's the other thing. I think maybe that's it. Maybe it's not products, but techniques. Often you see people throw a product at something. They'll discover a weathering powder or an enamel wash or whatever, and they'll just hurl it at the model, expecting it to look like the historical guys managed to make it look. But there is, if anything, I've found a lot of those products are way less forgiving than you know your acrylic paints and things like that. It's really cool, man. Like, you know, it does show the breadth you've got in this hobby. You know, when you consider, you know, once I met Andy, that opened my eyes a lot more to the larger scale figure paint, or larger scale fantasy figure painting, I should say. But this kind of thing and the large scale historical, like single figures and stuff, it's still a completely different world. Like, you know, I enjoy a lot of the techniques they use, but again, I'm often buying those books or watching those tutorials or looking at those ones where it's still more 28mm, 32mm scale stuff, albeit using those techniques. I'd love to go, like, I mean, which show typically are you seeing this kind of thing at? SMC?
Scale model chat.
Scale model chat, yeah.
There's 20 categories just for these things.
Wow.
135th, 136th, 137th, 138th. And then the same planes.
Scale model's really good. Monte Sansovino is a good one. There isn't as much at the Monte Sansovino one, but the level at Monte is very, very good. Their quality. And the thing that I found really interesting, the first time I went to see one of the shows, the thing that I think it was the first Monte, the thing that won was a guy stood next to a motorbike. And it seemed like, okay, I was like, but there were things not quite like this, but there were really big things there and incredible vehicles and tanks and stuff. And a dude stood next to a motorbike in 1/35 scale, won best of show. And then I didn't really understand why until I saw the book, and the motorbike was made from scratch. So I
absolutely hated that model.
But like he'd used like a base model, and basically I don't know why I like the details so much. Basically, he'd found a photograph of an Italian soldier stood next to a prototype motorbike that nobody made in 135. So he got the nearest thing that was in 135, converted it using the photograph as reference, scratch built half of it, and painted it in the exact colors as it was in that. And it was just insane. I don't know why. It's weird because it's such an insular world, and the way that they talk about, like, this is different because it's like what ifs, and it's starting to open up towards like that kind of thing, like what ifs. But the historical painting world are so on it with their like historical references. So like if you have a German soldier, he has to be wearing the right type of camo that he would be wearing in that year, in that.
But it's even further than that, right? The high level stuff is even like, is the dirt the right color? You know, is the material faded correctly? And again, that's what I mean about it being a different world. Like, I suppose you've got a palette big enough, or a canvas rather big enough to show that on.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like some incredibly painted soldiers, and I thought, God, that's incredible. And I've seen comments being like, no, this is completely wrong. In Germany in the spring of 1944, they wouldn't have had this camouflage. It's from 1945, or if you can't back up what you're showing with photographic evidence, it's not
you've
valid.
mentioned the photos a few times, like in the past as well. Like that sounds like something you'd be keen to have a whirl with. Like
it's weird because a bit, but my favorite thing actually is this sort of thing. It's the what ifs, because then you can create things a bit differently and you can add your own bit of imagination into it. You take what they've got as a base, because I love that era and the historical part of it. But you then sort of put your own spin on it. So there's a few people that do really, really interesting what ifs, like 1947, that kind of thing. And then there's also different companies that have done like artwork and computer games based on like alternate futures. And I love that idea of it. That's some of like the walkers and the random things that I've built, or like I did some like a couple of 135 scale tanks, but painted them to be like 40k versions. And I'd love to do an army, like a 40k Krieg army with like 135 scale historical tanks and Kriegsmen, and that kind of make a mix of the techniques but use it for 40k.
We should get our friend Ben on and have an episode on this what if stuff, I think, Rich, because it's, you know, it is really cool, and there is a lot more of it now than there was even a year or two ago. I think we'll definitely get him on, and hopefully Rich will come back to us shortly as well. Obviously, the internet in the shed is playing up. Let's move on while he unfreezes, and if necessary, we can pick back up on this if there's something we didn't talk about that he wanted to. What's up next, Matt?
So next up is my one.
Oh, what a classic!
Yeah, I went classic. It's sort of pinnacle 40 Warhammer fantasy diorama, isn't it?
Absolutely. I haven't got a pick for this show.
Yeah, this would be yours.
Matt Parks, not this one, but Matt Parks would feature very heavily. He to me, him and Mike McVeigh, were the two like untouchables for Games Workshop dioramas. Those two were just a level above. Real cool. So take us through, because this came out when I was on hobby sabbatical. So take us through it, Matt.
So it's 2010 Slayer Sword winner. He still has it because these are the photos he gave me, which is really cool. It's nice to see it's still kicking about. But yeah, it's just sort of, it's everything about fantasy in one piece. That's the best way to explain it, I think.
Classic Warhammer, innit?
Yeah, it's classic
very,
Warhammer.
very easy way to sort of, someone goes, "Oh, what's Warhammer Fantasy?" You go, "Well, okay, there you go. Have a look at this."
Yeah, and just every part of it, you look at. It's the same with a historical piece. There's just every single angle you look at, there is something new to find. And what I quite like is, I think there's only been like a couple of pictures of it kicking around for most of the time. But when I got the new pictures over, you could see all of the effort that he put into it, which was really cool. So obviously you got there's I don't know if it comes out super well on here, but there's what those troll swamp things.
Yeah, is it a river troll?
River troll, yeah.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah. No, it's the foot. It's pulling the boat under.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which is what I've never really seen the back of it. I don't think many people have seen the back of it, which is just cool. And obviously you've got all the Empire dudes with their crossbows.
Good moss there.
It's good moss, isn't it? So do you think with dioramas then that the whole rewarding from multiple angles, and I don't just mean slightly to the left of center and slightly to the right of center, we're talking stick it on a lazy Susan, that, do you think that's almost key to making it?
I don't think so.
No? You think it's just a happy coincidence?
I think it's dependent on like what it's all about, right? So I'll give you the opposite of that, which is Lan's Nagash in the chair. One picture, who cares about any other pictures? Massive impact, right? But that works for that piece. And then ones like this with lots of little things going on, it's really nice to have it's really nice to have it either way, isn't it? You either have one that's got a very strong presentation, this is the angle, it's like a photograph, it's still a diorama, or then these are really fun when you can keep finding the hidden details. There's almost no hidden details in the land one, is there? But it doesn't matter, it's still amazing. Whereas this one, there's loads to explore, and it's just both are cool, and that's really nice. But I do love this style of diorama where you see it and you've seen it for ages, and then someone shows you a picture of a rat that's hidden in a drain on the bottom or something. And you're like, oh. You know.
I feel like a lot of that came as well from the fact that this was early days internet sharing. You know, there was certainly, when I was in the hobby the first time round, the only time you saw dioramas was White Dwarf, or if you were lucky enough to get to Games Day. But even if you got to Games Day, you couldn't fucking see anything because it was usually 3 people deep, all being herded along. And again, back then it basically was Warhammer or historicals. There wasn't really any other options. So I kind of feel like all those little gems that you're talking about, Andy, the little, say rat in a hole, they became, they had almost like folklore about them, didn't they? Because it'd be like, oh, have you seen the squig on this one, or have you seen that kind of thing? And it's
what's underneath that bridge, for example, could be a load of bats.
But it becomes really important, and I feel like I wonder if photography, or the being able to see them so readily now, or being able to manipulate, and I don't mean that negatively, but being able to sort of determine and manipulate how people view your piece, whether that's changed things a bit with how it is. Because again, it had to look good under stark lights in print. That was the deal back when this was around, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have it on Instagram. You couldn't pinch and zoom and do all of that.
Great color scheme for those Empire, by the way.
I think also what comes into it is, this was 2010. The products and materials that were available for this type of stuff were like what we have now is just like a million miles away from what was then. Is
it only 2010?
Yeah, I thought it was older than that.
I mean, that is kind of horrible.
I think it's 2010.
It looks old, and it's not. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just crazy.
It's just the last 10 years has really changed things, right?
The standard is bonkers how it's changed in a decade, hasn't it?
Got with Parallel now. I'm going to check.
There's some very, very high level painting on this, isn't there? But equally, there's some bits we've looked at in the pictures where you're like, oh, I could do that. I could achieve that.
For a diorama, though, right? Like, there's the Slayer sword. Before this, I think, was that one Marine that was like bonkers level and would still win today. Do you remember that one converted Marine? He had his helmet like hollowed out beside him. And
I remember him.
Had snakes on his chest,
carrying a thunderhammer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Remember that? That was unreal. That paint job. But diorama is massive. You can't do every edge perfectly on a diorama like this, can you?
No, it was 2010.
That's interesting.
I just checked.
You were saying a minute ago you felt that everything should be, or was that more when it was a larger scale, everything had to be?
No, that's why I don't want to do it myself.
Right.
So yeah, I wouldn't want to do it myself because I just I wouldn't want to.
Gotcha.
But Philip Haking spent 5 years on his diorama, and that is basically every bit is spot on of that. Right. But he spent 5 years on it. So,
Which one?
He's painted a lot of wood grain on this diorama, hasn't he?
Flicking
through the pictures.
There was quite a bit on there, but yeah, it was 2010. I just checked. It was I think the last time he entered.
What about that basket there then on the top right?
That's it, right? Like if you're going to nitpick, but it doesn't matter, does it?
No, it doesn't matter. But it's just an interesting point.
But it is, right? Yeah, like it's significantly different standard to say the boat, right? All that cool like faded paintwork painting he's done on the boat. You know, like it's just so, you know, when like it's when painters suit the subject as well, isn't it? Like everything about this is just correct.
I think it's fun as well. That's the one thing for me about the whole topic tonight is dioramas bring back a bit of fun. And you could show some muggles and they'd be like, oh, that's cool. I think not having to explain to anyone what's going on is important. You know, it's a big giant and he's fighting some dudes. Everyone's going to know that and be like, oh, it's like Harry Potter or something. But we'll forgive them if they show an interest. But yeah, it's just cool. It's just a lot of fun. And I think like anyone would enjoy looking at that in real life. They go, oh, that's quite cool.
Definitely.
Yeah. I love how he's done it as a sort of he's put an awful lot of movement into it, hasn't he? But via things like the whatever that thing is that's used to ram the cannonballs and things down the thing, that's been chucked aside, so it's glued at an angle. You know, so it's, you know, the rope's been glued.
Ropes are amazing.
As if it's mid. You know, it's really cool. Like I hadn't really noticed before just how much has been going on in that snapshot, as it were.
Like a cannonball in midair.
But that's the one that stands out, right? You sort of look at that and you're like, oh, that's the big thing. But there's so much going on under the bridge.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting story behind this is he actually took it to a French Golden Demon back in the day, and he was painting it the night before, and he just went, no, this isn't good enough to enter. Just left it in the hotel and brought it to the next one, and then obviously won the sword.
Well, that's the right choice.
Yeah,
I admire that. Well done.
Question is, where are the Citadel sunflower kits? Because I need one of them. Look at it, happy little chap just down there.
I do wonder with the projects like this, like where do you start when you're painting it?
The giant, and
Who
then
knows, mate?
And then the sunflower.
But how do you glue it all on? I mean, I've ruined a cape today just trying to glue it on with a fat old thumbprint on the back of it. Like, could you
very
imagine
carefully
painting, like
No sub-assemblies.
The 30 odd models there are on this base, like having to paint them and then secure them.
It's like with my one.
Like
it's like with my one, like all the different layers of texture and grit and dirt and paint. It's like, where'd you start?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I guess with the one you pick, Rich, would that not be a little more obvious in the sense of a lot of historical painting sort of comes from that angle, doesn't it? Like it's you have to think realistically to paint it realistically.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Whereas with the fantasy stuff, it's a lot more, I think anyway, a lot more illustrative, a lot more imaginative. Imaginative's the wrong word, but do you know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean.
You're sort of like, you can do it however the fuck you want. Whereas the historical one, you've got to do it this way. Like,
I think also with the historical one, just the means of painting, it's a lot more base colours with effects, building them up over layers using enamels and things like that. Whereas it's not as much base, mid-high, whatever, which I think makes it different. Like, it'd be so daunting, though, the idea. That's probably one of the reasons why I haven't done a diorama or a good diorama before, in that it's so daunting to me, the idea of doing it, but I still kind of want to give it a go.
Would you guys say the two we've seen so far have been particularly large dioramas, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Out of the ordinary large.
Yeah.
But that's probably why we've picked them, because that's what makes them standouts, is they're large to a high standard, right?
Sure.
So, like, as cool as a mini diorama would be, maybe it doesn't push, like, you know, in the forefront of your mind as something like this. Because a mini one would be like, just, I mean, it reminds me of some jewels actually, but like just the boat section of this diorama. That would be a great piece on its own, right?
Absolutely. I mean, my pick, for what it's worth, had I done it, would have been the old Mike McVeigh Warhammer Quest diorama, where it goes through the house and into the different levels. That's quite old compared to what you guys are showing. But again, I think what blew me away about that was exactly as you said, Andy, was just the sheer scale of it, in the sense of actually it was about 8 dioramas all glued together. You know,
So the one,
it's
it's the one in
Sorry,
in the exhibition, isn't it? The first room.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be my like. If Warhammer World was on fire, what would you say?
That's a great question. If
It would be that. I think it's the image, either that or Matt Parks's crashed Imperial Guard Katakan land speeder outpost. I think which is in the Demon Compendium. Is it not? I think. Yeah, pretty sure it is. Those are the two things I think I've spent the most time looking at cumulatively, like as a of models. Like I can still vividly remember just poring over the 2 or 3 pages or whatever they were in White Dwarf on this. But again, it's because there was so much to look at.
I'm just surprised that they're still kicking around and they're not in multiple pieces.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Matt went to work at G-Dub, didn't he? Is that right? Did you go heavy metal for a while?
I think he worked there for a while. I don't think he worked in possibly not heavy metal.
Right.
But yeah, he did. I think he did definitely work there at some point.
But he's right up there with like multiple Slayer Sword person, isn't he? Of that era.
Yeah.
Like he's on the board at Warhammer World with the winners. I know his name's on there a fair few times.
4.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And yeah, great pick, mate. Really is.
Cool.
It's even all the posters and things have got stuff on as well.
Yeah, all the papers are written. He's got actual writing on them. I don't know how he did that. Whether it's like printed out and cut out.
So good. And look at that weathering on that bit of ironwork that's come down there. That's a bit ahead of its time there.
That's really good, actually. That's like one of the nicest bits, isn't it?
You know, a little wink to what was to come with sort of the painting meta. Nice one. Great choice, Matt. So I think our final one is Andy's pick.
It is.
Yes. Yeah. This is pretty famous, eh?
Had to be. I sent Matt a few and I said, you choose. And Matt chose this. Yes, this, you have to watch the video. So
we'll describe it for people.
Well, why I love it is, I think the basic concept of there's 2 scenes, before battle and after battle, is such a great idea in itself. Then the fact it's presented on a musical box that turns, because you could just have 2 sides or 2 dioramas next to each other, and then the standard of it as well is very high. Yeah, it's just hard to beat. I love originality, and an originality to a high standard is even better. But yeah, what a great idea. Going out to battle all happy and then coming back absolutely done in. All those little details like the aubergine. Oh, that's just great. That eggplant emoji, pumpkin. But don't you think that this is a very high level of painting, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think you've hit it there though as well. It's that there was, if we're talking about Matt Parks being very much the sort of poster boy of a certain era, like I feel that Matt Sexwish and Ben Comets probably are the 2 of this era in that extremely high level execution and monstrous creativity.
It's the idea, man. Can you imagine like if you were a competitor that year and you're like, yeah, I've got this model, whatever, and this turns up, you'd be like, oh god.
And it starts turning.
So is this side the on the way out?
This is on the way. Yeah.
So the knight's all like having a good time. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna smash these orcs, no worries. The lady's like, yes, have some flowers, and it's all pretty cool. Have you got the other side, Matt?
There's not too many images of the other side, unfortunately. It's all in the video.
Right.
But he comes back, and is he dead on the horse?
He is dead. He's on
Yeah.
a deer, isn't he?
Yeah.
So that's like loads of narrative, amazing painting. I mean, haven't got anything else to say really.
But he changes it all, doesn't he? The whole palette changes, doesn't it? On the side, the coming home side.
Are there different fruits and veg on because it's a different season or what?
Yeah, everything's dead, isn't it? Everything's dying. Everything's sort of blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite sad in a way, isn't it?
It's like, very sad, yeah. which is interesting when this era of Empire, Warhammer Empire models was a little comical. Like it had a bit of Terry Pratchett to it. You know, it was that, and I think that's perhaps why a lot of people enjoyed it and made dioramas with them and stuff, because they, as you were saying before, Andy, it's that you could invite someone who didn't really know about Warhammer. They could still enjoy this sort of typical fantasy, sort of medieval-ish scene.
This is just a knight, really, isn't it? And it could be anything. But yeah, it's just in the Warhammer setting, I guess, the classic Warhammer.
But there's very little really to this that has it as Warhammer at all.
Yeah, I think so too.
Really, which is
nice.
That's one of the things that makes it so interesting. You know, seeing those Warhammer models in a different environment, you know, or presented in a different way. I love how much work he's put into painting just the I don't know what you call it, filigree work, whatever. The frame, of the thing. But yeah, we'll obviously these will all be linked in the description, guys. But do go and watch the video.
You imagine that. I'm just thinking. You imagine that turning up, like if you're competing, if you're a judge. Imagine when they're like, right, who's the Slayer sword then?
Yeah.
Like, did they take any time deciding that? You know?
Do you think, because this is one of the first instances that I can remember of someone doing something like this, do you think there was an element of them thinking, well, does this, is it almost like too out there? Is it too different?
Yeah, will it set a precedent? It's like when the duels
have music. Does music count?
Yeah.
Well, that's a thing with the basing, right? You often say that the base can take away from the model, but how I can't remember how they phrase it. But like if you do a fancy base, right, for Guji, they sort of like, that's nice, but that's not what's going to determine whether this wins or not, kind of thing. But you had it with the duels, right, where it got to the point where they weren't just a small duel on a 60mm base. They were, this big, and they just happened to be counterweighted, so they were hanging off the thing like that. I see what you're getting at there, Rich. But I guess this would have been open anyway, right? Which was literally anything goes. You have people entering 20.
This was diorama.
Oh, okay. Diorama was its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, diorama and open was.
It was 2011 Germany, which I think probably helped it a bit, not being sort of the UK ones.
Oh, I don't know, mate. What was UK 2011? Like, what won the Slayer? Oh, I mean, let's not even talk about that. The Slayer Sword UK 2011 was Angelo DiCello's Necromancer. I think that this would have won the Slayer Sword no matter when it was entered, right?
Was it Matt who did one just after this, which were like opened up like that, and you saw underground? Was it Skaven or something?
He has done one.
Last entry, I think.
This was his last entry, but Matt has done one where it's like a circular type thing that opens up,
like a cylinder that opens.
up. And it's got like a steampunk drill sort of thing.
Oh yeah, the mole.
Yeah. It was a Skaven like under mole thing, wasn't it?
Right.
That's Italy 2008.
Yeah.
There we go.
I love his what was it, the Leonardo da Vinci type one. I can't remember which one that was, but the one on the pier, and you have the like submarine type thing.
Oh yeah.
It's such a cool way of looking at it. It's really thinking outside the box, which I think is really, it's just such a different way. And someone who's got that mindset, that's just how they see it.
Yeah, I mean, he's an incredibly creative person anyway, isn't he, Matt? Like, but it's, I know what you're saying, Andy. Like, it's how do you compete against something like that?
Mhm.
You know, even if in one of your models individually is painted to a higher standard, well, you know,
Does it matter?
Games Day's never been wholly about that, has it? You know,
No.
it's as important, the coolness almost, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, my other one I was thinking about was the Last Light Roman Lepat.
I'm really surprised one of you didn't pick that.
I did.
Yeah. I suspect we're probably going to do many more than just one diorama show. So it's something we're all particularly keen on.
I think we should do Golden Demon specials of particular categories. So
yeah, that'd be fun.
It'd be good to do it like a single figure one, and bits like that. That'd be really fun.
Do like a groundbreaking Golden Demon one. So anything that changed the way Golden Demon
the game.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But this is so Matt again. I'm trying to think. Matt took a few swords, didn't he? Is that right? Like he's
one
legit.
for this
just
one.
Because he definitely is him and Ben comments of this era.
Ben
they're who I think of,
didn't he?
I mean, Matt and Ben, they used to. I mean, it was quite a big thing, sort of mid early 2000s. People would like team up. You'd have the sculptor and the painter, and Matt and Ben did two of those, which is quite cool.
Right, that's very cool. That's very cool. Well, those are three very different dioramas. So it's really nice to pick. I mean, two of them are massive, and one of them is two stuck on top of each other, isn't it? Really, or two stuck.
Yeah.
One's a music box,
face to face, and one's a music box. Yeah, there's just. I know it's a huge undertaking. It really is, but for me, I don't think there's anything better in miniatures painting. For me, we're looking at the hobby. Single miniature painting is incredible and it's amazing, and I love it and I admire it. But it's this kind of thing that takes it to that next sort of that sort of childlike wonderment kind of thing. Of how the hell have they done that? I can't, like you said, Rich, I can't even begin to think where I would start. Whereas at least, on an incredibly well painted miniature, I can go, well, I can't do that, but I could sort of analyze it and go, well, okay, this, but something like this is you've either got it or you haven't, right?
I think,
and I love that. I love that there's that category or whatever that for people to show that off.
I think a good thing to do would be to read Roman Leplat's blog about the Last Light. There's 7 parts to it where he basically did it as he was going through, and that's not the biggest of dioramas, but there's just a crap ton of tyranids on it. And the sort of he goes through quite. I mean, he can type super well and write really well, so you really understand the struggles of what a diorama, like trying to make it really sort of intricate, can be.
Absolutely. Yeah, Rob's saying in the chat, how on earth did you get it to France? I'd be too paranoid to travel with it. It's like,
he's French.
That's that helps. But it brings a whole new level of transportation issues, doesn't it? Dioramas.
Also, a thing for me, like with dioramas, especially like 8 months and the one that I showed, the level of commitment to that.
That's a couple of hours a day.
But that's that 1%, isn't it? That's why we talk about those things. That's why we talk about Dave Soper's Dark Elder Harpy. Are they called harpies?
What makes them special, I think.
Whatever they're called, scourges. It does. It's because it's that lots of people can paint well, but it's there's that little extra percentage of a few people that sets them apart, doesn't it? And I do feel that dioramas often where that shines through.
I think so. I think if you see the level of that people have got to with painting lately and the increase in ability, I think it's still dioramas. When you see a really special one, there's still, like you said, that moment of wow.
Yeah, it's just composition, the story itself. Just there's so much to look at, which is why I say this will be the first of, I hope, many sort of diorama chats, or oh my god, have you seen this? Right, stick it up. Spend an hour talking about the pick of the week kind of thing. And I can't wait to see what's going to come out of the shows over the next 12 months. What's been hidden or put on pause and getting finished. Be very exciting to see. Okay, I think unless you chaps have got anything else to talk about the Matt's diorama there, we should move on to the final section, which, as ever, is the hashtag paint cultist thing. So we created a hashtag for the podcast, hashtag paint cultist. It's just for people to enjoy and share their work, predominantly on Instagram, but it is on the other social medias. You've got thousands and thousands of images on there now, all sorts of settings, scales, the lot. So if you do want to sort of broaden your horizons a bit with what's out there and try and find some cool new accounts or some stuff you haven't thought about trying before, do check it out and give it a follow. And all I do is grab a few, I pop on there, just pluck a few out to show off to the guys that just caught my eye. So I'm never going to show work in progresses, but there's one on there at the minute that I really fucking hope someone finishes, because it could be absolutely mint. But yeah, we'll see if they finish it, and then I'll pick it at the end of a show coming up. But I think I've picked 5 or 6. I can never remember.
You got 1, 2.
What we got, Matt?
You got 7.
There we go, 7. So I can never remember.
First up.
So good time to take a drink. This one jumped out for a couple of reasons. Andy's just painted this model recently, and I think didn't particularly enjoy himself and doesn't particularly like the model. Joshua's a very good painter, creates lovely little scenes. And I actually thought it looked pretty cool. Like I was like, if I was a D&D player or something like that, like that's a great sort of D&D style model.
I like the model.
Oh, okay.
I just don't like painting quick.
Right.
But it's lovely.
But yeah, it's just, again, it tells a real story. I think then the paint job helps, and it's just it's just lovely.
Really like the snow on it. Use of snow on that model works really well with it.
Is that micro beads again? It does look like millions of them, doesn't it? Teeny tiny little
Maybe,
things.
Yeah.
But yeah, he creates some really great scenes, Joshua. So yeah, right, my cup of tea that. So yeah, that's why that one jumped out at me. This one I picked because again, we were talking about dioramas. So I'll have to paraphrase. I can't remember exactly what the account holder wrote, but it was something along the lines of he had this idea that it was the end of some battle. A samurai warlord had he you can see him like he's sort of last man standing, and he's like invoked some terrible curse or spirits or something like that. Open the Ark of the Covenant, that kind of thing, and that's what they're all doing, coming out behind him and stuff. And I think he said it was his first go at doing like a diorama. Vignette, I don't know what you call it really, but I just thought it was a really cool idea.
That's very cool, especially if it's his first go. Yeah,
also reminded me what a wicked set of models those Nighthaunt, that range of ghosties is. I think those in the background have come from that. But yeah, just it's just cool, right? Tells a story. It's not massive. Yeah. It's not
arrows at the feet you can't beat. It's great.
Yeah. It's just a really nice job. But I've not seen this account before on the hashtag, so thanks for using the tag. It's really cool to see it. Right.
Yeah.
This is a bit bigger. So I believe Games Workshop have their armies on parade happening around about now.
Yeah, it's coming up.
And actually, I couldn't decide which picture to use from this account, because he shot a few images, like I'd mentioned earlier, where he used the lighting and created really strong sort of atmospheric sort of pictures, photos. But I just wanted to pick a massive picture because it's fair play. Like, that's a lot of the time I feel like Armies on Parade does just look like you've stuck all your models on a tile. But I felt like this one worked really well by just sticking all the models on the tile. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's nicely done. Yeah, it works.
It suits it, doesn't it? Like, it's just, and a huge amount of work to go into it. You know, I know the Americans in particular, there's a few of them over there that are really into the whole display board thing at conventions and and tournaments.
Man, it's crazy out there.
It's not really something that's, I think, particularly took off over here.
It's very different over
yeah,
there. Sure.
It's cool, right?
Nobody's got the space to store them in the UK.
Yeah. That's legit, right? But actually, it's a pretty good way of storing your models. This, but
True.
Again,
it doesn't look messy then. It looks great. It's like love.
And I mean,
it's in the living room. Well, no.
Even if we just ignore the go-karts in the middle, it's just a lot of very cool models.
The best colour models
displayed
as well.
really nicely.
I must admit, I was thinking the same thing. It's amazing, and I was like, "I'm go-karts really."
Just squint, just focus on bits. Yeah, I mean they're very nicely painted, but
put the thumb over the go-karts. Come on, G-Dub, what are you doing?
But yeah, it must be a very cool feeling, like when you finish a project, like it's not just on your shelf, it's on a display board. Like I really admire that. I hope one day I have a project where I want to do that. Where I don't just finish it and hate myself. I just want to never see it.
Come on.
Say again.
Do a massive swamp, a big swamp.
But that's my point, right? Like that Cruel Boys army, doesn't please me. Doesn't please me at all. Right? It's just regret. It's just a box full of regret over there, right? But there'll be something. There'll be something I'm proud of, and I want to do a thing with. But nice one. And I'm sure there'll be. I'm sure Armies on Parade's probably a hashtag or something of that ilk. So I imagine this time of year that'd be a really fun one to take a look at.
Where's Taro and his Armies on Parade? That's always one.
Yeah, he was always great at them, wasn't he? Yeah.
Do you remember the Elder one through the web, the Dark Elder through the
That's the
webway?
one, right? Talking about seminal pieces, right? Yeah, that was pretty special. But yeah, love it. Blood Angels as well, always cool.
Yay!
But yeah, nice one. Good work. Right, we've got a couple more. I think, right? This one obviously Pumpkin Gandalf.
Mate, did you see Albert's pumpkin?
No. Font? No, I didn't. Nice.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because Mike said last week that he felt that we should show off more sculpting, not just painting on the hashtag. So that one's for you there, Mike.
It's on our hashtag. I've just realised it has to be in this section.
Yeah. I
like it.
We featured some of Nate's stuff before. Actually, I recognised the name, but top work. Right, I think there's a couple more actual painting ones as well to come.
Oh wow!
This I thought was lovely, right? As in, it's a this is another account actually we've shown a few times. I've just recognised the name. A real classic sculpt, right? Abalam. Hera. That's right, isn't it? Hera models. Yeah.
Being Rich both done him.
A great manufacturer. Certainly someone we look up to as we're becoming miniature manufacturers and stuff. Like we've always enjoyed Hera's stuff. In fact, we've done quite a few classes on Hera models. But it's just really cool. I love what he's done on the base. I think it's really cool. The painting's rad. I love the strong light on the face. Like,
yeah.
It's just
very cool.
And the eyes are creepy as fuck.
He's really good with color and creative ideas, I think, because like even his Space Marines are the super cool ones with all the markings on. It's cool seeing him do like mega creative Space Marines and then doing other stuff. Yeah, he's actually really good at mixing it up. I like anyone who does like Space Marines but also busts. Like I don't like that division of I do this, I do that. I think it's pretty cool that he's creative no matter the medium. And he just does whatever really, which is really cool.
You enjoyed painting this bust, didn't you? It was one of your copper NMM sort of first forays into it.
That I did. Yeah. I thought, that's actually quite good. I think it's the first time I felt that way about a model. So.
I think it's the only bust to date I've actually finished as well for me.
Yeah, that was the era as well, Rich, when we were like eyes wide open to like model. Like, ooh, models!
I think I painted this just after I got back from my first Monty visit.
Yeah, right. We did the first Monty. This had like just come out, and we saw like the box art in real life, and we're like, "Wow, the models! This is crazy."
Yeah. We were like, we need to level up our game a little bit.
Yeah, it was good times, wasn't
it? Yeah, it's lovely, man. Like I say, it's not often you see I feel with the larger scale miniatures and busts that often there's there are real standouts, aren't there? And often people, quite rightly, paint them, right? Because perhaps there aren't as many good quality ones, out there. So you see them a lot. There's no two ways about it. And I haven't seen an Aberlam for a few years.
No.
It was just really nice to see it come up and go, oh, that's rad, and it's a cool paint job,
Because there was a time when there was a lot of these around, like a lot of people did this first.
And it makes sense, right? Hera were doing very well. I think they were really growing as a brand at that time. They sort of leveled,
Was this their debut miniature? I think.
And they had, had the Orca come out before this, hadn't it?
No, this was the debut.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I think this is. Yeah, because I've still got the card for this somewhere, and I think it has got the number 1 on it.
Oh, there we are. So that'll be why then. So Hera burst onto the scene with this, and it's someone new, right? It's a new manufacturer. It's great way to debut though. Eh?
Raoul though, isn't it?
Yeah, pick the good ones, right? And then lastly, or maybe not lastly,
this is the last one.
Not lastly. Yes, lastly. Speaking of people that are really good at painting Space Marines and other stuff.
Yeah.
Our friend Dave from Australia.
Dave.
I picked this one out partly, or almost entirely, because it was just a nice story. One of his mates had recently had a kid and all the rest of it, and this was a gift. This was a present he painted up and sent to. And it was we know both of these people, and it was the other person that showed this off. But we've credited Dave with the paint job just because obviously it's his, it is his paint job. But yeah, it's a really nice sort of story, and I just love that he just drops these odd Marines that he's just painted in his style.
Yeah, I love the fact he shaves off most of the detail and just goes, "These armor. This is just the armor," and paints. I really like.
I really like it when you can see a mini and tell who's painted it.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave's definitely got that. And I think it's his painting. It's not how he takes photos, because sometimes you'll see photos and you'll know who's done it, right? Because how the photo's been done. But Dave's, I think, is all about the painting.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, looking forward to just looking. I always like seeing stuff from Dave. I don't know why. It's also not necessarily my cup of tea either. Like, as in, I've no aspirations to try and emulate this style, if that makes sense.
And salamanders are the worst chapter as well.
But it's, there's just something you have to admire about it, isn't there? There's just something cool about it, how he's painted it.
Yeah. Because it's so easy to read, isn't it? It's like.
Is that it? All right.
Because it's very bold lighting, but it's not overly complex. Is the wrong word, because it is actually quite complex, but it's just clear.
Not busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not
too much information. But then you look at the head, and it's all stippled. It's like there's loads of detail there, but it's just open and easy to read, isn't it?
Is it you mention things sometimes? You say noise when you talk about it. Would that be right in saying there's not too much noise going on in this?
Well, I think in a way, but I think look at the face. There's loads. But it's just how clear he is with his light, isn't it? It's like he's just very bold with the lighting, but it's all clear. So I think it's because if you look at the brown scales, that isn't, not every scale's edge highlighted, right? So a lot of his painting's quite soft, but he's like held back in the right places, so he doesn't overly render every part. That's why it's so clear. Because where there's, he doesn't put loads of stuff going on where it doesn't need to be, like the backpack.
Yeah, or the spear haft is quite simple, isn't it?
What the diamond cloth bit? He's not edged every bit diamond sort of thing. Yeah. And then the non-metallics doesn't have loads of rendering on like each individual part. He's just really played with the changes of angle on each part. So I mean, that blade end looks absolutely dangerous, doesn't it? They've got purple, blue, and whatever.
I thought that chest shield was true metallics first time I saw it.
Mm.
I guess that's just because, as you say, it's so bold and bright, and that's how metallics look, if that makes sense, right? It hasn't necessarily got all that nuance in, right, that you often see people do with NMM.
I think he's really thinking about the overall view, so he doesn't get bogged down into details that don't matter. And I think that's why it looks so clear. Is because he hasn't, like I said, if you do a bright edge highlight on all of those scales in the brown and edge highlight every one of those diamonds on the shaft of the spear, then it draws your attention away. So, but yes, I think the kind of.
But he's done a lot more on the face, is what you're saying. Like, everything's drawing you in.
Yeah.
To that sort of area.
Yeah, it's cool. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it? But that's so that was the final pick. Just a nice little story, and as usual, an amazingly painted model by Dave. So yeah, nice one. Well, thanks, chaps. That was nice to do a little pre-record. Bit strange doing it without the audience like normal. It's nice to see a few of the lads been watching along. Mike says he wants his own hashtag. Convert cultist. All right, mate. You go for it, Mike. You fire that one up, and we'll follow along with that one. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed having a natter about that. It was good fun, like not knowing at all what you were going to come up with.
Oh, you.
I'm well surprised the last light didn't go in. I really am.
We discussed it, myself and Matthew.
Right.
I also put in Sopa's Dark Eldar.
Yeah. So, right.
and then Land's Nagash on the toilet.
Well, a couple of months we'll do Diorama 2, Diorama Harder, or whatever.
Yeah. And, Dinorama.
Yeah, we'll see what we've got on going with that. But thanks for joining us in the chat, guys. Mike's already got one follower on hashtag Convert Cultist. It's Mike, so good on you, bud. Keep
Have
going.
A word.
Keep doing them white skulls, though, mate. They're amazing. But yeah, thanks for joining us in the chat. Thanks if you're watching this back on YouTube. We really, really appreciate it. If you want to get in touch with us, talk about any topics you'd like us to cover, then we're on all the different social media platforms, all the rest of it. We've got your Patreon if you want to support what we're doing as well. We're going to try and keep up with our sort of roughly every 2-week schedule. So the next show out from us after this will be another hobby hangout. And then I think it might be time for the Christmas show after that, if my dates add up. But anyway, we'll figure it out. We've got some fun things planned to see out the end of the year. Thank you, boys, as ever, for coming on and talking. It's always a pleasure. I'm very intrigued as to what we're going to see over these last sort of 6 weeks or so before everything goes quiet on the release front. I feel like there's going to be 1 or 2 more little gems out there to get everyone very excited for painting on the over the holidays and into the new year. But on that note, I think we'll wrap it up. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.